How's it going, guys? So, much to our surprise, the team has recently released a blog post telling us that there's gonna be new cards in the game in the form of the new starter decks, and this is gonna be called the Welcome Set, the Gods Unchained Welcome Set. And there's gonna be 70 new cards in the game. Those are gonna be the starter decks are gonna have those cards in them, one for each god, and on top of that, you're gonna be able to edit your starter decks from now on because you're gonna have all of the cards already in the decks. Everyone's gonna get them for free. So you're gonna be able to edit your deck with the cards you are earning in the booster packs as you play. So in that sense, let's do another card review. And this is going to be divided in two parts. The first part, we're going to be reviewing the neutral cards for the welcome set, and the second part is going to be all of the cards from the different gods. It's important to notice that most of these cards are weaker versions of other cards that we already have in the core set and in the Genesis set, and in that sense, we're going to be reviewing them on a lower scale. So most of the cards are going to be either 2 stars, some 3 stars, and eventually one or another card will be 4 stars. But I don't think there will be any 5-star cards. I've checked all of the cards. Some of the cards are good and might find their way into regular decks. But those are going to be the 4-star cards. Those are the cards that you might include one or another in your main decks. But for newcomers, we're going to be reviewing the different cards for you to get a sense of like which card you should be changing first for their better versions and things like that. And which cards you should leave in your starter deck. So let's jump right in. In the first card that we have is going to be the Spring Bloom Hunter. It's a 1 mana 2/2 with regen 1. That's pretty good because it gives you like a possibility of doing some trades. The equivalent that you would have here would be a Black Jaguar for 2 mana 3/3, but then it has Confused. So in that sense, I think this card's an okay card. It's not a bad card compared to other cards, so I'm gonna put this in the 3-star category. Then we have Barricades. Barricades a 2 mana 1/4. This is the equivalent of the walls. I would say that there's better, like for walls, there's better alternatives. So I'm gonna put this in the 2 stars category because there's better alternatives for that. Then we have the Dark Side Prowler, 1 mana 2/2 with hidden for 1 turn. It's pretty good. Even though it's very specific in terms of the scenarios that you would use it on. So I'm gonna give it 2 stars as well because there's better cards out there in the core set and for example in the Deception card pool. Then we have Wild Hog, 1 mana 2/3 with Confused. So that would be the equivalent of Black Jaguar, but like a weaker Black Jaguar. That's an okay card, so I'm gonna put this in the 3-star category. Even though it has Confused, it's a good card to play in the first turn. Then we have Vanguard X-Woman with Blitz, a 2 mana 2/3 with Blitz. For me, this is a 2-star card because then we have the Tavern Brawler, which is a 1 mana 2/2 with Blitz. Just loses one stat in health, and it's 1 mana cheaper, and that's a really huge difference. So this definitely goes into the 2-star category. Then we have Volatile Hemp, with dealing 1 damage to a random enemy character and its afterlife. This is another 2-star card. Dealing damage to random enemy character is terrible. This stat line is terrible, so I'm just gonna no. Then we have Panician Messenger with heal another friendly creature for 1. So it's a targeted heal, but healing for 1 is not really relevant at all. If this was 1 mana 2/2 heal for 1, then I would say it's better. But since it's not, I'm gonna put this in the 2-star category. Then we have the Warden, an Amazon with 3/4. This card, even though it has a basic stat line, it's the same as the Dune Cavalry, essentially. I'm gonna give it a 4-star card. Why? Because it can be put into the Amazon type of deck, and the Amazon type of deck having a stat line that's 3-4, it's really, really good. So if you ever want to do Amazon types of decks and you don't have a lot of Amazons, you should definitely put the Hunt Warden in it. Then we have Jail Beasts with Afterlife, summon a 1/1 Implink. It's an okay card. It's a 3 mana for 2. It's an okay stat line. I would much rather do it the other way around, the 2/3 that summons a 1/1. That would be much better. In that sense, I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars because it's an okay card. Then we have Uplight Initiate, 3 mana, 1/4 with Frontline. That's definitely a 2-star card for me. Well, I might, no, actually, I think I'm gonna put it in the 3-star cards. No, it's still 2 stars. Even though it's Olympian, maybe in the future it can become better because this stat line for Olympians might be interesting in the future, but right now it's not. So I'm gonna put this in the 2 stars for sure. Then we have a Poison Peddler with a 4 mana 1/3 with Deadly. That's an okay card. It's not that great, so I'm just gonna give it 3 stars. It has Deadly, it can do 1 trait, but I'd much rather have it less mana, less health, and less attack. Then we have Underbridge Assailant. It's a 4 mana 5/3 with Amazon. If it was reversed, much better, but that would be basically another Aggro Protector. So this is the inverse of an Aggro Protector without the front line. It's a weaker version of Aggro Protector, basically. But I'm gonna put this into 2 stars. Before the Hunt Warden was 4 stars, but that's because he has a really good stat line for Amazons. This is a very aggressive, so I'm not gonna put it in the I'm gonna put it in the 2 stars. Then we have a Flame Caller with backline at the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to each enemy character. The only issue with this, it's a 5 mana 1/2, and like dealing 1 damage to everything else, like even though it has backline, this is gonna be super slow. It's gonna die right away. It dies to pretty much any type of board clear, so I'm definitely gonna put this in the 2-star card. To the 2-star category. Then we have the Wild Ursine. That's a 5 mana 6/5 with Confused. I would compare this to well, actually there's no comparison because you have the Overgrown Rhino at 4 mana 5/5. This is an extra stat for 1 extra mana, so it's a weaker version of the Overgrown Rhino in a sense, so this is definitely 2 stars. Then we have Summoner's Guide. The first time you summon a creature each turn, deal 2 damage to your opponent. I don't like this card, only in the sense that it's 5 mana. If it was like 3 mana or something like that, it would be really good, because then you can just combo it with other cards. But unless this survives for a turn, it's not that great. And it only activates the first time you summon a creature each turn. So I'm definitely going to put this in the 2-star category, the benefits not. Then we have Rotting Mount with a 6 mana 5/5 with Afterlife, summon a 1/1 Implink. So that's a 6 mana 6/6 with an Afterlife. It's another card, so it might be interesting because it gives some flexibility to the Nethers. But I'm still gonna put this in the 3 stars because it's a neutral stat line. Then we have Hired Muscle, 6 mana 6/5 with Frontline. It's a guild card. It's an okay card, but I'm still gonna put it in the 2-star category because there's way better options out there. Then at the next one's Echo Caster, which is a 6 mana 4/4. Ward, Roar, pull a random spell from your void into your hand. The only issue is that it pulls a random spell. So unless you can pull one spell that you used so far, like, it's not that useful. There's better options out there, even though that Magic doesn't have a lot of recycling spells from the void, but you always have the God Power, which you can rely on. So this definitely goes into the 2-star category as well. Then we have Juggernaut, 7 mana 6/7 with Blitz and Confuse. Might be interesting, but I don't think it's that great of a card, so I'm gonna put this in the 3-star card. It's an okay card. It can be interesting in the future, especially because it's wild and there can be some wild synergies going on. After this, we have a Nubian Usher with when this creature attacks a god, pull a random creature from your void into your hand. And in that sense, it's actually quite interesting because it's not when it attacks a creature, it's when it attacks a god. So as long as this survives, it might be interesting to recycle cards in, for example, a death deck or something like that. So I'm gonna put this in the 4-star category because I think this might have some really good synergies in the future to be able to be played. Then we have a Killian Dedicant. At the 8 mana 6/7 with Blitz Protected and Ward, so that guarantees you 1 trade, but the fact is that it's 8 mana. 8 mana cards need to be super powerful, so this definitely goes into the 2-star category because compared to other 8 mana cards, this is not nearly as good. Then we have Reckless Flame Breather with Roar, deal 5 damage to each other creature, including your own, so this is kind of like a poor man's Borkler. If you play this and the opponent, like, you don't have other creatures in your board, it might be interesting because this survives. So it deals, it's an Inferno, and on top of being an Inferno, you drop a 5/5 on the board, and it's a dragon. That's the important part, because it's a dragon, and this might be super interesting to start making like dragon decks and things like that. So I'm gonna put this in the 4-star category just because I see the potential here. It might not be very apparent in the beginning, but I see the potential here. Then we have a Pep's Doomcaller, another Nubian frontline Afterlife. Each of your creatures gain deadly. It's an Afterlife. If it was Roar, then it would be good, but since it's not, I'm gonna put it in the 2-star category. Like, having a frontline, like, even though it's gonna die before the other cards, they can just clear your board and make sure that you don't get deadly cards. I would much rather have this with Roar. And then finally we have the Barbed Portcullis with frontline and can't attack. It's another structure. It's an okay card. For 3 mana 2/4, it's actually interesting because it's kind of like a Bloodworm, but with an extra attack instead of the burn. So I'm gonna put this into the 3 stars, not 4 stars type of material, but it's gonna be cool. Then let's jump right in. Actually, this is going pretty quick. Let's jump right in into the nature cards. The nature cards, we have the starting at 3 mana. At 1 mana, we have Best Friends. Summon a Confused 2/1 Eagle. Then if you have 3 or more creatures, summon a 1/2 Badger. So if you have a lot of creatures, this is a good way to do a zoo type of deck, and this is a good way to synergize with Oliphant Mon. So I'm definitely going to put this card in the 4-star category because it might be super interesting. And it gives a possibility for other god powers to be able to get the benefit from Animal Bond. Then at 3 mana, we have Aspect of Axolotl. Give regen +6 to target creature, another 4-star card for sure, because this will synergize with the Trial of the Hydra and things like that in the new Trial of the God set, and it's gonna become super powerful because then you can just buff creatures like 6/6 right away. That's amazing. After this we have Untamed Regrowth. Confuse all enemy creatures, refresh 4 mana. So basically you gain 1 mana, and on top of that you confuse every enemy creatures. And since it's not confused for a turn, I think this card's pretty good. If it was confused for a turn, then I wouldn't say so, but since you basically get 1 mana, or on turn 3, you could argue that this is kind of like functions like a bag of tricks. So on turn 3 you have 4 mana, on top of that you can just every enemy creature, and that's pretty good. So I'm gonna put this in the 4-star category for sure. Then at 4 mana we have Jump On, give a creature +3 strength and Overkill. I don't think this is a good card. There's way better options out there. For example, Swelling Boon and things like that, even though you're giving it Overkill. So I'm gonna put this in the 2-star category. At 5 mana we have Wild Root Staff. After you attack with this relic, give +1 to each of your creatures. You can target these attacks, so you basically for 5 mana on top of the attack, but let's just count it as nothing. You're giving, for 5 mana, you're giving +2/+2 to every creatures. And that's essentially a Fire Wine. A permanent Fire Wine. And that's pretty good. And you can decide when it applies. So I'm definitely going to put this card in the 4-star card. And in the future, it might become super, super powerful. Then we have Escape Silverback. 5 mana, 5/4, deal 1 damage to a random enemy character. So that's the, like, would you play this or Veil Warden, for example? I would much rather play Veil Warden instead of doing 1 damage to random enemy character. But it's a wild card, so it might be interesting in the future with other synergies. I'm still going to put it in the 2-star category right now, though. And finally, we have Charging Oryx. Roar, this creature attacks a random valid character. So basically, this is beefed up Underbrush Boar. And Underbrush Boar is pretty good, especially only because it's a really early game card. For 7 mana, I don't know if you want to be targeting right away, like attacking right away. But if, for example, if they don't have creatures on the board and you play this, this is going to deal 7 damage to the face right away. And that's pretty good because it's valid character. It's not creature compared to Underbrush Boar. So I think this has a lot of potential. So I'm going to put it in the 4-star category for now. After this, let's go into the war cards. War cards we have here. At 1 mana, we have 2 cards. We have the Boil Blood Outlaw, which as this creature gets +1 strength after it attacks a creature. This is a weaker version of Bladecaster, so I'm just gonna no, it's compared to Bladecaster. Bladecaster gains health, this gains attack, but I don't like Bladecaster. It's a very terrible card nowadays, so I'm gonna put this in the 2-star category. Then we have Fury that gives Blitz and +1 strength to a creature. That might be interesting if you're not running the Onslaught God Power, then it gives you some sustainability, some trading capabilities, or like you could argue that it's some sort of removal because you use it on one of your creatures, but I'm still gonna put it in the 2 stars because I don't see this being used a lot. Then we have Vicious Rant, deal 3 damage to a damaged creature. This is definitely a 4-star card. War doesn't have like dealing direct damage types of spells that are really good. So this card is gonna jump up and it's gonna be in a lot of war decks for sure. Then at 3 mana we have Call to Arms, give each creature in your deck +1 strength. This might be interesting in a buff deck. Perhaps when the new expansion comes out, might be super good. Even though giving +1 strength in your deck is not that great, so I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars. Even though I wanted to put it in a buff, I'm still gonna put it in the 3 stars because it might have some potential, but I'm not sure. Then we have Raid Reveler. It's a 3 mana 2/2 with Roar. Each creature in your hand gets +1 strength. So this is compared to the 3 mana 1/1 that buffs everything in your hand by 1/1 from the Genesis set. The Blacksmith Armor. I don't know. This might be interesting if you want to run a super aggressive deck. This is super interesting if you're running an aggressive deck. You're increasing the attack capability of your cards, but then typically you're not going to have a lot of cards in your hand. So I'm gonna have to put this in the 3 stars because I don't know what's gonna happen. There's another 2-star card that we passed through was the Ramshackle Hatchet. It's a 2 mana 3/1 with God Blitz, so it gives you 1 attack. It might be interesting to combo with other things. I don't know, perhaps with a spell that gives +3 to a relic and to a creature. This might be super interesting because it costs 2 mana, so for 4 mana you're doing 6 damage to the face, plus the creature is going to get a buff, that buffed attack. So I'm going to have to put this in the 3 stars. Maybe in the future can be much more powerful because there's not that many. There's not God Blitz. You don't have God Blitz cards for such low amounts of mana, and that might really turn the table for War in terms of being a super aggressive type of deck. Then we have Overproof Brew. Pick 1. Your creatures get +1 strength and take 2 damage, or the same thing to the opponent's creatures. So Basically, this is a 6 mana kind of sort of removal for war, because you can deal 2 damage to every opponent creature. Or you can even buff your creatures, so it gives you that flexibility. I'm gonna put this in the 4-star card, in the 4-star category, because giving removals to war is really powerful. After this we have Twin Horn Rider. It's a twin strike with Blitz 4/6 that costs 7 mana. Might be interesting, comparable to the Cyclops Marksman. I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars because I don't know if this is gonna be interesting or not. Even though it's a Viking, so it might work well and come into a lot of decks. The interesting part of about these cards in the welcome set is that they're gonna beef up the pools of cards for each of the factions. So the Vikings, the Dragons, the Wild, and all of those things, they're gonna be beefed up, and maybe they become viable from now on. Together with the Trial of the Gods, you have a lot of more variability in the terms of decks that you can make. That can be a possibility. So these cards can improve over time. Then after this, we have the death cards. In the death cards, we have a 1 mana Soul Bargain, give target friendly creature soulless, then draws a card. So it's a 1 mana draw card. If you don't care about bringing it back from the void, then it's pretty interesting, because that's the cheapest card draw that you have with death right now. So I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars category, because it's not amazing, but it's not bad either. It's better than the cards some of the cards you already have with death, so it might be interesting. Then at 2 mana we have Feast on the Dead, destroy target friendly creatures. Other creatures gain leech. This is super good. I'm definitely gonna put this in the 4-star category, because if you're running an aggressive deck and then there's no way for you to regain the momentum or the sustainability of the damage you took in the early game, if you're not running Blood Ritual, so you could be running an angle and then use Feast on the Dead. That gives you a lot of options, so this card is definitely a 4-star card. Then we have Just an Evil, deal 1 damage to a friendly creature, heal your god for 5. That's like, if you're desperate, you would play this by healing your god for 5. It would be interesting, but I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars category because I just don't know if this is gonna be interesting or not. Possessed Acolyte, Afterlife. If your god has 15 health or less, summon a 2/2 Nether Spawn. This is definitely definitely a 4-star card. It's not 5 stars because it's not like Demogorgon level or Hydra, but it's definitely a 4-star card because this is gonna find its way into pretty much any death deck for sure. Because if you're running death decks that you take a lot of damage in the beginning, if you're running those tempo cards that deal damage to yourself and things like that, that means that on turn 3 or turn 4 you can drop this Possessed Acolyte, and that means on turn 4 you're dropping an 8/8 in terms of stats, and that's absolutely bonkers. So this card is definitely amazing. We have then Stygian Collector. Afterlight, obliterate a random card in your hand. A 4 mana 6/4. 3 stars for me because it's not that great. Together with the Possessed Acolyte, I much rather play those types of cards that deal damage to your god. Those are going to be much better now. This card is definitely 3 stars. It's okay. It's not bad, it's not good, it's okay. Then we have Corpse Swallower. Whenever an enemy creature dies, you draw a card. So this is the equivalent to the Famished Goal, but instead of whenever it doesn't affect both sides, so it's just for you. So a 6 mana 6/5 has a good slot line in order to survive. I would put this in a super aggressive deck instead of the Famished Gold, for example. It costs 4 mana, but I would run this instead of that. So I'm gonna put this in the 3-star category. It's not amazing, so it's still gonna stay in the 3 stars. Then we have Rebuild differently. Destroy target creature, pull a random creature from any board onto your side of the board. This might be interesting. The only problem is that it pulls a random creature from any void. So if it was targeted, then yes, that would be another raise that. Well, this is a Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this in the 4-star category because it's destroy target creature. It's targeted removal, so that's like the reap upgraded reap. On top of killing a creature, you're bringing back a creature to your side of the board, even though it's random, but it's really good. So yeah, so we're gonna put it in the 4-star category. That's gonna be it. It's a really good card to be played. It might find its way into the death decks. We'll see, because you have Apocalypse now and things like that competing in this mana slot. Then we have Necromantic. Pull a random creature from each void onto your side of the board. An 8 mana 4/4. Random creature. So it pulls 2 creatures from one from each void onto your side of the board. That might be interesting. If you're running a void type of deck, this might be a combo card. But I'm still gonna put it in 3 stars because I don't see like its inherent really good capabilities. It might be interesting in void types of decks that reanimate voids and things like that. But for now, I'm gonna put it in the 3 stars. Then jumping on into light, I have here the cheapest cards are going to be the 2 mana ones. We have the Battlement Luminary at 2 mana 2/1. Give 1 health to each other friendly creature. For me, this is a 3-star card. It's not that amazing. It's not great. It's okay. Then we have the Crook of Shepherding. That's interesting. Pull the highest mana cost creature from your void into your hand. And it's an afterlife. This might be a good recycling mechanic, especially because Light wants to stay a little longer into the game. And these recycling mechanics might be interesting because it can bring you back a Hydra, it can bring you back a Demogorgon, things like that. So I'm gonna put this in the 4-star category because I don't like some of the possibilities I can think of right away, but I'm sure that there's lots and lots of combos and possibilities that I haven't thought of. So it's gonna be super interesting. Then at 3 mana, we have another 2 mana card. We have Brilliant Intervention, give frontline to a creature and fully heal it. These types of cards that fully heal a card are not that great, but then this gives frontline, and I think this is a 4-star card because what you can do with this is really, really good. You can like get a super high health creature that doesn't have frontline. He trades against it just to get it down, or you trade against other creatures, and then you fully heal it and you put a frontline basically for 2 mana. So as long as you're healing more health than what it would cost to put you on the board for 2 mana, plus you would have to consider 1 mana for the frontline. So this is essentially 1 mana for frontline, 1 mana for healing. Fully, so that's a really good card. This is 4 stars for sure, in my opinion. Then at 3 mana we have Pluck from Fate. Pull a random creature from each void into your hand. This is interesting. It's a random creature, but it gives you some opportunities to get some cards from your opponent. It's not that great because it's not selected. Like for example the Crook where it pulls the highest card. So I'm gonna have to put this in the 3-star category, but other than that, it's a pretty good card. I like it. Then we have Commune with the Light, draw a card, give each creature in your hand +1 health. I think this is a bad card, hands down. I'm gonna give it 2 stars because it's really bad. Then at 4 stars we have Radiant Spirit. At the end of your turn, a random friendly injured character is healed for 2. So it's character, so it works on you as a god and on your creature. So this card is really, really good, and it's also Naiadar, so it's quite interesting because it's giving Naiadar Light a lot of options. I'm thinking this is definitely gonna go find its way into an Naiadar Light deck, so I'm gonna give this 4 stars for sure. And then finally we have another Naiadar. It's an 8 mana 4/7 with frontline. Set each enemy's creature strength and health to 2. So it's basically Cupid board clear. So it affects the whole board, and it has a 4/7 with frontline. It's a pretty good mechanic, but you want to be using on when he has like high side creatures. You can be cheating out a lot of mana, and like others for 8 mana are not that good, so this falls well into the mana curve. So this is definitely a 4-star card in my opinion. Then going on to Magic. We have at 1 mana we have Illuminate. Pick one for C1 or deal 1 damage to an enemy creature. I don't think this is gonna find its way into people's decks, so I'm gonna put this into 2 stars. There's way better options out there. You have the text, ancient text, and that's a much better pick one type of scenario. So definitely 2 stars. At 2 mana we have the Third Eye Seer, Roar for C1, 2 mana 2/3. I don't think this is great, even though the stat line's okay. I'm gonna put this in the 2-star category. There's way better options to play at 2 mana for Magic. And we have Lambasting Wand. At the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to the enemy god and remove vulnerabilities. So this is basically for 2 mana. You're dealing 6 damage to the opposing god. Before, I would say this was a good card, but now I know that in the Trial of the God set, any type of card that's going to be reducing the durability of your opponent's relic is going to be find its way into people's decks. So relics are going to become super like they're going to become worse. So I'm going to put this in the 3 stars. Otherwise, I would give it 4 stars, but for now it's 3 stars. Then we have Versatile Conjuration. Pick one, draw a card, give your god protected, or deal 3 damage. That's a lot of possibilities, and that's interesting. But I'm still gonna have to put this in the 3-star category because for me it's an okay card. It gives you flexibility, which is nice, but it's not a bad card. It's an okay card. Then we have Rune Rider. For 5 mana, 3/3, delve a rune card and add it to your hand. So this is the first delving a rune card type of card, and it might be super interesting, even though the stat line is terrible. With Magic, you're typically ramping up in terms of mana, so being able to choose specific runes might be super good. So I'm gonna have to put this in the 3 stars, not 4 stars right away, because I don't know the impact of this, but it might become super good and might go up in the classification in the future. Then finally we have Epiphany at 7 mana, deal 6 damage, draw a card. So basically this is the upgrade of the Warm Breath. Warm Breath costs 4 mana, deals 5 damage. This deals +1 damage and draws a card. But is that worth 3 mana? I don't think so. So I'm gonna put this card in the 2 stars category. I don't think people are gonna be running this type of card because it's much better to run Inferno, deals 5 damage to everything instead of 6 damage to 1. So definitely 2 stars. And finally, jumping on to the final god card, the final cards of the welcome set. Let's go into Deception. The cheapest card is going to be Glider Assailant, 2 mana, 3/2 with flank. For me, this is a 2 mana, 2-star type of card. There's way better options out there. This is like the weaker version of those, so it's 2 stars for sure. Then we have 3 mana. We have Bedeviled Shadow, 3 mana, 3/3 with Hidden. It's an Nether, so it might find some interesting combos, but I'm still gonna have to put this in the 2-star category because for 3 mana you want to be playing, for example, Vault Vagabond or things like that. So it's definitely 2 stars. Then at 4 mana we have Ransom. Pull an enemy creature from the board into its own hand and increase its cost by 2. This is quite interesting. So you have the Gorilla. I would argue that this is better than the Gorilla card that Deception has, where it pulls a random card, deals 2 damage and pulls a random card from the opponent's board into their hand. For 1 extra mana, you can decide which card it is, and then on top of that, you can increase its cost by 2. And I think this is gonna have a lot of implications because let's say, for example, you play this on 8 mana cards. If they use all their bags of tricks, then they can't play that card anymore. So you basically remove it from the game, and that's super good, man. If it's a 9 mana, they can't play it. Like again, as long as you get rid of the ward, and Deception has a lot of cheap cards to be able to get rid of ward and things like that. So I think this card is definitely a 4-star card. It might become it might be a hidden gem and become super good and be in every Deception deck. But we still don't know yet. Then at 4 mana still we have a Poison Dagger, 4 mana 3/1 with Blitz and Deadly. So For me, this card is the 3 stars. It gives you can kill it's like a targeted removal. You can kill a creature directly for 4 mana, but you're still gonna be taking damage to your face, which is not ideal. But I'm still gonna put this in the 3 stars. Then at 5 mana we have the Secrets Broker, a roar. If you have fewer cards in your hand than your opponents, you draw a card. So it basically, you are only gonna be playing this if you have less cards than your opponent. So it's a 5 mana 3/5 withdraw. And it's Olympian, which might be interesting, but Olympian Deception is not that great. So I'm gonna put this card in the 2-star category because I think there's way better options to be played at 5 mana for Deception. Then we have a Stack the Deck. Both players draw 3 cards, increased by 1 the cost of the cards your opponent drew. So basically, this is the Rune Viper Tincture, but on top of that, it increases the cost for your opponent. So essentially, you could argue that this is kind of like removing a mana crystal from your opponent. But on top of that, you draw 3 cards. So I think this card is good. It's not like really good, and it's not bad. So I'm gonna put this in the 3 stars. But it might find its way into a lot of Deception decks if you don't have enough draw mechanics. And then finally, the final card, we have Spike T. Deal damage to target creature equal to its strength. So this is the equivalent to the Hunting Trap, and all other enemy creatures become confused. So this is a Hunting Trap. On top of that, it adds the adding confused to every enemy creature. I don't think this is a good card. I think this is a 2-star card. This would only be good if you did the same, like deal damage to target creature, and then on top of that you put everything to sleep. So you would argue that it would be better than the exercise, which puts everything to sleep for 5 mana, because the 2 mana would be the Hunting Trap, brings the cost of this card down to 4 mana, and then on top of that you would put everything to sleep, and that's really, really cool. So for now it's going to be 2 stars. And that's it, guys. That's the review of all the cards in the welcome set. We managed to do this in one video. It's a pretty big video, but it's easier for you to just watch the whole video of it has the review of every card. I really think some of these cards might find their way into a lot of decks. And another thing that I hadn't thought of was that this is populating a lot of the factions. So it's giving a lot of Anubians, a lot of Olympians, and other options for you to play. So those types of thematic decks might become super cool, and we're definitely going to be reviewing those decks if they come out, if they become popular in this channel with the deck reviews. So I hope you guys like this card review. If you did, make sure you smash the like button down below, and don't forget to answer the question in the description for today's video giveaway. See you guys next time. Thanks out. Bye bye.